The Russian Defense Ministry has just undergone its largest restructure in over a decade. As the war in Ukraine continues, key power brokers have been cast aside and Cold War-era military structures have been revived. In this episode, we will delve into these new changes, who now controls the armed forces, and what this may mean going forward. Welcome to C2 Military Unlocked. On February 26th, Russian President Putin signed into force the reinstatement of the Moscow and Leningrad military districts. Prior to this decision, the Russian armed forces were organized under 5 military district commands: the Eastern Military District, Central Military District, Southern Military District, Western Military District, and the Northern Fleet. Putin's decision effectively splits the Western Military District into two: the new Moscow and Leningrad military districts. The Northern Fleet also loses its status as an independent military command, with it being absorbed into the Leningrad military district, returning the armed forces into the structure seen during the Cold War. In addition to the overhaul of the military districts, we are also seeing significant changes in the size and distribution of unit commands. In 2008, then Russian Defense Minister Anatoly Serdyukov enacted far-reaching military reforms, one of which was the restructure of the ground forces from one designed to fight large state-on-state wars to more mobile and responsive units. Therefore, he either removed or downgraded almost all divisions to brigade formations. When former Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu came to power, he sought about reversing many of these reforms and did reinstate several division formations. However, the ground forces remained a brigade-dominant force when the war with Ukraine began. Since February 2022, we have seen, however, a rapid readoption of division formations, with announcements of at least 38 divisions being created. The restructuring of the unit formations, combined with the revival of Cold War-era military district commands, indicates Russia is returning to a military similar to what was seen under the Soviet Union, with large combined arms formations designed for state-on-state wars and a reprioritization of defenses along its western and northwestern borders. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has been replaced, Deputy Defense Minister Timur Ivanov has been arrested, and several military districts have received new leadership. So how does the Russian defense organization look now? The Russian military, naturally, is commanded by the President, Vladimir Putin, as the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. Below Putin, with direct control of all operations, is the Defense Minister. Sitting beneath the Defense Minister are currently 11 Deputy Defense Ministers. Historically, there have been 12 Deputy Defense Ministers. However, Deputy Defense Minister Timur Ivanov has recently been arrested for corruption, and his position has not officially been filled yet. At the center, we have the Chief of the General Staff, Valery Gerasimov. Gerasimov controls all workings of the armed services. The military are then split between the main command, which consists of the ground forces, Navy, and aerospace forces, the military district command system, and commands of armed services and departments not officially within the main armed forces, such as the airborne forces, strategic missile forces, and GRU, which each report directly to the Chief of General Staff. As mentioned, Russian President Vladimir Putin holds the position of Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Armed Forces. With this position, the President holds immense power over the military, with only the Federal Assembly able to restrict any actions involving the use of military force outside of Russia's borders. Reporting to the President and managing all elements of the Defense Ministry is the Defense Minister. The current Defense Minister is Andrei Belousov, who was recommended for the position on May 12, 2024. Prior to this, Sergei Shoigu held the position for around 12 years. Belousov is a well-regarded economist and Putin loyalist. His appointment to defense minister, instead of someone with military experience or maintaining Shoigu as defense minister, suggests Putin is planning for prolonged conflict with a defense budget requiring enhanced oversight. Below the defense minister is the chief of the general staff, currently filled by General of the Army Valery Gerasimov. He has held this position since 2012 and is a lifelong military officer. Gerasimov joined the service when he was just 16. He has held several senior postings, including commander of the elite 1st Guards Tank Army, Army commander during the Second Chechen War, and commander of the Eastern Military District. Gerasimov is the first deputy defense minister, but just below him are 10 to 11 deputy defense ministers, each managing their own portfolios. Currently, there are 10 deputy defense ministers other than Gerasimov. This is because the 11th, Timur Ivanov, has recently been arrested for corruption. Ivanov was a Putin loyalist and reported close friend of former defense minister Sergei Shoigu. Therefore, Ivanov's arrest came as a surprise to many. Another high-ranking military officer was arrested for corruption just days later. These arrests and the appointment of Belousov as defense minister indicate Putin's intention to rid the Defense Department on what is likely widespread corruption and misuse of funds designated for the war effort. Then sitting below Gerasimov is the commander of each service and department of the military, which report directly to the General Staff. The commander-in-chiefs of the Navy, Ground Forces, and Air Forces make up the main command of the Russian Armed Forces. The current commander-in-chief of the Navy is Admiral Alexander Moiseev. He was formerly the commander of the Northern Fleet, but was promoted in March 2024 after the then Commander Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov was removed, reportedly due to losses sustained during the war in Ukraine. General of the Army Oleg Solyukov has been Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Ground Forces since 2014. Colonel General Viktor Avsalov was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Aerospace Forces in late 2023. This post was previously held by Army General Sergei Surovikin. Surovikin was commander of all Russian forces in Ukraine, but after setback was demoted and then eventually replaced completely. Outside of the Armed Forces main command, there are several arms and departments of the military, the most important of which are the Airborne Forces, Strategic Missile Forces, Special Operations Forces, and Main Intelligence Department, more commonly known as the GRU. The commanders of these organizations are Colonel General Mikhail Teplinsky, Colonel General Sergei Karakayev, Major General Valery Flyostikov, and Admiral Igor Kostukov respectively. Almost all Russian armed forces serve not only under the command of their respective service heads, but also to the Military District Command. Colonel General Alexander Lapin now commands the new Leningrad Military District. Lapin previously served as Ground Forces Chief of Staff, commanded the Central Military District, and all Russian forces in Syria. Lapin has publicly been criticized for his leadership during the war in Ukraine, but is believed to be favored by the General Staff and President Putin. Colonel General Sergei Kozlovlev commands the new Moscow Military District. He has previously commanded the Southern Military District, including during the time of the Wagner Uprising, which saw his headquarters overrun, the commander of Russian forces in Syria, and briefly was the commander of the former Western Military District. Colonel General Gennady Anashkin now commands the Southern Military District. He has recently received this promotion to replace Colonel General Kozlovlev. Anashkin previously commanded Russian peacekeeping forces in Nagorno-Karabakh. Colonel General Andrei Mordvichev commands the Central Military District and has so since February 2023. Previously, he served as Deputy Commander of the Southern Military District. Lieutenant General Alexander Sonchik has just been promoted to Interim Commander of the Eastern Military District. Sonchik previously served as the commander of the 35th Combined Arms Army while fighting in Ukraine. Lastly, Russia has 5 main naval groupings: the Pacific Fleet, Northern Fleet, Baltic Fleet, Black Sea Fleet, and Caspian Flotilla. Traditionally, These fleets were subordinate to their respective military districts. However, the Russian Defense Ministry has just returned direct and total control of the fleets to the Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy. It is clear that the Russian Armed Forces and Defense Ministry are in the midst of their most significant structural reforms in over a decade. Their actions suggest the country is preparing for a prolonged war in Ukraine, reprioritizing defense of its west and northwestern approaches and shifting its forces away from small mobile units to ones prepared for major state-on-state conflicts. These reforms are likely not yet complete, so the question remains, what changes will we see next?